Gino Borelli. If you invincible, just say that, because how many times you gonna cheat death? Finally, let's talk about American Horror Story Season 11. Hey y'all, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, welcome to the tribe. And if you are returning to Fiercely V, welcome back. So happy to have you. I am shooting on a new camera and I am so used to looking at myself instead of the actual lens. I don't know where I'm going to be looking, but I'm probably going to be looking at both. So sorry if that annoys you. I don't know. Hi, it's been a minute. And I am actually here to talk about American Horror Story Season 11 NYC. Now, we are actually getting the last 2 episodes this week. And originally I was gonna wait until all the episodes had finished and I was gonna review the whole entire season. But I was like, man, I kind of have a lot of stuff to say already about this season. And so I would rather just go ahead and get my thoughts out about the season thus far, and then also give some of my predictions, because I have quite a few predictions about how they're gonna wrap this season up that I want to talk about, and I kind of want to put that out there before the season finale happens. Now, it has only been a few weeks. We've been getting 2 episodes per week instead of 1, and so this has literally flown by, which I'm going to talk about my thoughts about that a little bit later in the video. But basically this week we're going to get the final 2 episodes of American Horror Story NYC. And yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about it. So get comfortable, you know, get a snack or whatever. We're gonna talk about everything that has happened thus far, my thoughts about it, the critiques that I have about this season, and then, like I said at the end, some of the predictions that I have about how they're gonna round this season out. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Definitely, if you're here enjoying the vibes at Fiercely V, you want to make sure that before you leave, you go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, and definitely consider subscribing to the tribe if you like content like this. Let's get into the video. So basically, the main premise of this season is we're in New York City in the 80s, and we essentially have a killer that is targeting the gay community, specifically gay men, and even more specifically, gay men who are part of this leather bar subculture of 1980s NYC. And so throughout the series, we are made aware that there are a lot of gay men who are being killed, body parts are being found, or, you know, bodies that are missing body parts are being found. In the very first episode, the NYPD ends up finding a body that doesn't have a head on it, but it does have a blue handkerchief like shoved into the windpipe, and the blue handkerchief ends up being a symbolic thing within the gay leather bar subculture community as a way to like let prospective partners know what you're into sexually. And so it's a whole thing. And throughout the course of the season, we basically end up having 2 people that I believe are killing people, and it'll make sense why I'm saying it like this later. But basically, we have a serial killer named Mr. Whiteley. He is one of our characters for the majority of the season. And we know he's a serial killer because he ends up kidnapping one of our other main characters and, you know, basically letting him know that, yeah, I'm out here killing people. The NYPD don't care because it's gay people and they don't care about us. So, you know, good luck trying to, you know, nobody's gonna stop me from doing what I'm doing. And basically, you know, Mr. Whiteley is a part of the gay community, but for some reason he believes that he is helping the community by killing these people so that he could show the NYPD that we're regular people and we bleed just like them. And it's just like, you couldn't think of a way to do that didn't involve murdering people? Like, you couldn't think of no other way to do that? I don't think you really tried to think too hard about it. Either way, you know, we find out like later on in the season that, you know, Mr. Whiteley, you know, he definitely enjoys what he's doing. You know, there is an element of him, you know, he's trying to act like he's on this like grandiose mission trying to help the community, but deep down, like, you like chopping people up, you know. And we kind of figure that out a little bit later on into the season. And then we also figure out that he's like trying to create some Frankenstein type creature where he's like all these body parts from people that he's cutting off, he's like sticking them together and creating some sort of Frankenstein monster type, somebody that's gonna avenge gay people in NYC. Like, I don't know. Listen, we're gonna talk more about Mr. Whiteley and his whole little plot line, but that's the basis of it, right? But there's another killer, because there's also a killer who we come to find out later in the season goes by the name Big Daddy. And he's just like this big buff dude who's like decked out in all this leather stuff and like the little leather face mask and stuff. Because remember, you know, leather bar subculture. And he is also a character that's believed to be killing people. And there's a reason I'm saying believed to be killing people, because I don't know. I have thoughts about that. I have theories. We're going to talk about it later. But anyway, basically throughout the series, we are faced with this premise of gay people are coming up missing. NYPD doesn't really care about it. They're not really looking into it that much. We know Mr. Whiteley, the serial killer, is killing people. We also believe Big Daddy is killing people. Everybody's on high alert. In the midst of all this, there is also a virus that it seemed like everybody in New York City has it. Like, literally every single character, main character of the show has this virus. And I'm just like, okay, I get what you're trying to do, which is probably accentuate the idea of the AIDS epidemic and how it's spread through the gay community. But it's like, is it really realistic that every single person would have it? But also, like, it doesn't have to be realistic because it's a show and you're making it more dramatic. So, like, I get that. But it's just like, damn, every single person in the entire gay community of NYC has this virus. Like, that's kind of wild. And even people who are not gay, because one of the main characters, who's a doctor, she has it. But also, she was impregnated by her friend who was gay. So I guess that would be how she caught it. And also another character who is the ex-wife of one of the other characters, seems like she has it too. But again, I guess she would have got it from him. So, I mean, I guess, but it's just like, what? Everybody got it? But anyway, neither here nor there. The point is, there is a virus that is also, you know, basically ravaging the gay community as well. We end up finding out early on that there's a doctor who is paid by Billie Lourd, AHS royalty, and she's basically been, you know, researching this virus. She's like, it's, you know, it's a virus that is spreading rapidly. It's generating super quickly. You know, it's mutating really quickly, and it definitely seems like they're alluding to the AIDS virus that essentially tore through the gay community in the 80s. Not just the gay community, but definitely the gay community in the 80s. And there's a island called Fire Island, and there's a whole bunch of deer out there who have this virus. And you know, Billie Lourd's character, whose name is Hannah, Dr. Hannah, she ends up like having the sheriff out there just like shoot all the deer, because she's like, they're gonna end up spreading this virus to people, and once it goes to people, like, it's mutating so fast, and it's, you know, it's gonna devastate the community. And so, you know, basically, you know, that's the main premise of the entire season. You have these possible two killers, you know, targeting people in the community. And then you also have this disease that is ravaging the community. And it seemed like everybody got it. And so that's kind of the main premise of the season. Now, there are some other little side plots and side stories, but that's the main premise of what's going on. So we have a lot of characters. I'm not going to get too much into like episode by episode synopsis, because like I said, we would be here forever. There are certain parts of the, you know, synopsis that I'm gonna talk about and point out that I think are like crucial, but mostly I'm just gonna kind of give like a little bit of a rundown on the characters and what they have going on. So basically, one of the main characters that we have is Officer Patrick. He is an NYPD officer. He is also a closeted gay man, and so throughout the season we are just kind of seeing his, you know, basically double life, really. You know, he has to pretend that he's not gay when he's at work, but you know, he has this whole separate life. He has a partner by the name of Gino who he's in a relationship with. They live together, all that good stuff. Gino is a journalist. He works for the main newspaper for the LGBTQIA community in New York at the time, called The Native. I think he's like the editor or something. He's like the main person at the newspaper. But you know, he's obviously very concerned that so many people in his community are coming up missing and coming up dead. The NYPD don't seem to care, and that causes friction between his relationship with Patrick, because Patrick is an NYPD officer, but Patrick can't cause too much of a stir because he's in the closet. And so, you know, in addition to there being tension in their relationship because of that, there's also tension because of the fact that Patrick is in the closet, and that is just like, you know, a frustrating thing for Gino to deal with, because it's like, you know, you should be doing more to help, but then Patrick is like, you know, I can't though, because I can't, you know what I mean? I have to pretend, you know? And so there's a lot of tension there. We also end up meeting Patrick's ex-wife, because he was married to a woman up until very recently. They're actually going through the divorce. The ex-wife, name is Barbara, played by Leslie Grossman, also AHS royalty. And you know, we have like a weird dynamic between them, because as the episodes go on, it's very clear that Barbara does not want to let go of her marriage with Patrick. She still very much wants him. She still loves him. She's hurt at the fact that he is, you know, has come out and let it be known that, you know, hey, I'm a gay man, I can't stay married to you. She's clearly hurt by that, but she also still wants him. But then at the same time, like, she's going to Gino and like telling Gino things about Patrick, like he's a liar, he's not telling you everything, he's hiding things from you, this is what he does. And it's kind of a weird dynamic, because it's like, on the one hand, you see her when she's with Patrick being all just, you know, sweet and kind, and, you know, because she still wants him. But then when she talks to Gino about Patrick, it's like she has nothing but negative things to say about him. And it's like, girl, do you love him or do you hate him? Which one is it? Like, let us know. So very interesting dynamic between them. Also in regards to Gino and Patrick, you know, there's a huge situation of like Patrick just lying, to be honest. Like, there's a lot of things that he's lied to Gino about. Like, at one point, you know, when I mentioned before that, you know, in the earlier episodes, they found a body that didn't have a head, but it had a scarf shoved down its windpipe. And Patrick goes out of his way to ask Gino, what is a blue handkerchief? What does a blue handkerchief mean? Because there's this whole thing where, you know, gay men who go to these leather bars, they would wear handkerchiefs of a certain color to let prospective partners know what they're into sexually. So if I have this color handkerchief, it means that I'm down to do this. If I'm wearing this color handkerchief, then it means that I'm down to do bondage, or like, you know, like whatever the case. And so Patrick goes out of his way to ask Gino, what does a handkerchief system mean? And then we come to find out later in the season that he fully knows what it means, and he even has an entire box at the house that him and Barbara used to share of all these different handkerchiefs and all this leather stuff. So that means he knows what the handkerchiefs mean. He's been to leather bars. He used the handkerchief system, and it's like, why are you lying? You know, like, why are you lying like this, Patrick? So there is a dynamic that comes about, like, as the episodes progress, where we see that, like, Gino is realizing that Patrick is not who he said he was. Patrick, like, basically portrayed himself to be this, you know, oh, I'm new to this gay stuff. I've been married to a woman. I don't know how this goes. I've never been to a leather bar. I don't know what the handkerchief system means. But then it turns out that you do know what the handkerchief system means. You literally have a box of handkerchiefs of all different colors. You have a box with all this leather stuff, meaning you've been to leather bars before. Then as we get even further in the episodes, we find out that, you know, you've been all on Fire Island doing it. Like, you've been out here. And why did you lie? And so that ends up being a huge issue between Gino and Patrick, because as Gino is learning more about Patrick, he's like, dang, I don't know you at all. Like, you lied fully about who you are, like everything about you almost. So that's a huge issue. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and say Patrick, I've been side-eyeing Patrick since the early episodes. I don't trust him. I think there's a lot more going on than Patrick than even what he said, which he done said a lot, okay? There's a lot that Patrick has come clean about, but I think there's even more, but we're going to talk about that later. But that's the main premise between Patrick and then his ex-wife Barbara. Our other main characters we have is Sam. Sam is a character who we're introduced to in the first episode. He's looking for love. He don't want to sleep around. He don't want to be promiscuous. He wants that one person. He's that guy. And so basically when we meet him, he's getting over a breakup. He's sad. He's on the couch. He's moping around. His roommate tries to get him out of the house, and they end up encountering Big Daddy out there, and he never see his roommate again. We ain't never seen that young man again. And so it's alluded to that Big Daddy did something to him, but I don't know. We're going to talk about that. But anyway, it's alluded to that Big Daddy did something to him because we never see him again. But basically, we basically see Adam throughout the course of the season just basically trying to figure out what happened to his friend. He's asking questions. You know, he saw Big Daddy out there the night that his friend came up missing. So he's going around. He's trying to figure out who Big Daddy is. You know, why would he do something to his friend? You know, then he ends up connecting with Gino and working with Gino at the Native so they could just try to help the community and try to get the word out there that, like, be extra careful. Like, people is out here taking us out. Right? And so, you know, and then also we also see Adam develop a relationship with another one of our major characters by the name of Theo. Theo is a photographer, and he's in this sugar daddy relationship with creepy ass dude named Sam. We're gonna talk about Sam a little later. But basically he's a photographer. He's very promiscuous. Every time we see Theo in this show, he is with a different person about to hook up with them. But ultimately, him and Adam end up forming this connection, and they end up embarking on a relationship with each other, which ultimately makes Theo agree to just be with Adam exclusively, and he actually ends up breaking up with his creepy ass dude Sam, which Sam does not take that very well. He doesn't like it. He actually ends up doing something really disgusting to Theo in this last episode that we saw, and as a result of it, and it's just like, wow, like Sam is a really horrible person. But let's go ahead and talk about Sam. So Sam is Theo's partner. It's giving like sugar daddy type vibes, basically. They live together in this really nice apartment. Basically, Theo, he takes these really like raunchy, sexual, graphic photos, and Sam has all these connections to really rich, closeted men, is what he said. Very closeted, very wealthy men who want these graphic sexual photos in their homes, and they're willing to pay top dollar for them. So basically, like, Theo is like, okay, I'm an artist. I just want to do my art, you know. I just want to take my pictures or whatever. He doesn't necessarily want to take these types of photos. Sam is just pressuring him to do it because that's where the money is. And with Sam, it's just basically all about money. Plus, Sam is a creepy ass, fucking creepy sexual predator, creepy dude. So he's like getting off on the fact that like he's meeting these super young men, you know, sweet talking them, getting them to come back and get their photos taken by Theo, and then during the process he's making them do all this like really like graphic sexual stuff, and he gets off on that because he's a creepy ass creep. And so basically we see like the dynamic between them is basically, like I said, is really like a sugar daddy type dynamic. Clearly Sam is older, you know, he has Theo put up in this super nice luxury apartment in New York. And, you know, Theo is obviously very young, and he's a young artist. He wants to take pictures. And then Sam is just really pressuring him into doing other stuff. Now, the other side story when it comes to Sam is that Sam is a whole ass predator out here. He done kidnapped some young, you know, guy. Not necessarily kidnapped him. He basically like coerced him to come over under the guise of, yeah, like, you know, we're gonna hook up or whatever. And then when the young man gets there, he locks him in a freaking cage in his basement and won't let the guy leave. And the guy's like, look, I've had enough. I'm not into this no more. Like, I don't like it no more. Like, let me go. And Sam is just like, no. And so it's like, oh, so you're like you're a whole ass out here. Like, you're a predator. And so that kid actually ends up escaping and telling the police, you know, this guy, he held me captive. He did this, such and such to me. And when the police come, Patrick is one of the police officers that comes to talk to Sam about it. And that's when we learn that Sam and Patrick got a little history. You know, apparently they got into some trouble a few years back out on Fire Island, which is where, you know, all the people in the gay community, they go out there to kind of hang out and party sometimes. And while they were out on Fire Island partying, they accidentally killed some young man in some like bondage sexual situation thing, and they accidentally killed him and buried his body and stuff. So basically we see that like Patrick, like, he doesn't even, like, even though he knows that like Sam did this to this young kid, he just kind of lets it slide because obviously Sam has this dirt on him. So, which again, that just says so much about Patrick, because it's just like, you just gonna let this slide, you know, like, you know what he did to this young kid, you just gonna let it slide. But either way, so that's Sam. So Sam is a bad guy. He's a creepy ass dude. He's disgusting, and him and Patrick have this history. I do not trust Patrick. I don't trust him. I think that I think that him and Sam's stuff goes a lot deeper than just that story that they told, but we're gonna talk about that later. But anyway, at the end, in the last episode that we saw before this week, we actually saw that, you know, Theo, you know, he's left Sam. He's in a relationship with Adam now. And in order to get back at him, Sam ends up drugging his drink and then tying him up and then telling this other dude that, you know, it was a role play situation and that Sam wants to do stuff with him, but Sam is like halfway conscious, and that's basically like his way of getting back at Theo for leaving him. And it's a whole thing. So one of the other main characters that we have is Whiteley, the serial killer. So at one point in the series, Gino is out. He's asking questions, trying to figure out what's going on. Again, he's a journalist, and he ends up getting his drink drugged. He's talking to a gentleman by the name of Henry, played by Dennis O'Hare. Definitely AHS royalty, okay? And he ends up talking to Henry about, you know, has Henry seen anything suspicious? You know, people are coming up missing, and basically he ends up getting his drink drugged while he's sitting there talking to Henry, and he gets kidnapped by Whiteley, the serial killer. But Whiteley ends up letting him go because he sees that Gino has like a military tattoo. And he's like, oh, you know, I was in the military too. I gotta let you go. You know, I can't. What he ends up saying is something like, you know, oh, you've already served. You can't serve twice or something. And so basically he ends up letting him go. Now that's the first time Gino cheated death, okay? Then Gino, he ends up still like trying to figure out who Whiteley is and still like going after him and chasing after him and stuff. And he ends up having like a showdown with Gino one night after a fire. Big Daddy basically set fire to one of their local hangouts, and a whole bunch of the characters were there. Everybody ends up getting rushed to the hospital and stuff, and Gino encounters Whiteley there, and he's like, oh shit, that's the guy that kidnapped me or whatever. So he's chasing him down, and Whiteley ends up like locking him in the morgue in the freezer, so that he could freeze to death there. But then ultimately Patrick ends up coming down and letting him out, you know, before he can freeze to death. And so that's the second time Gino escaped death, okay? And so then at this point, Gino ends up going to get like a psychic reading from one of the other characters in the show who we'll talk about later. And basically during this psychic reading, the angel of death from AHS from Asylum shows up. What Shakath. Listen, my girl Frances Conroy, aka the Myrtle Snow, which is actually one of my favorite characters of hers in the AHS universe. But honestly, I love every character she portrays. Like, stop it. Like, Frances Conroy she's that girl. But anyway, Gino ends up getting, like, Shakath comes because it's like, no, it's time for you to die. You didn't cheat at death enough, okay? But once again, he's like, no, he rejects the kiss because, you know, she has to kiss you. And so he rejects the kiss. So again, cheats death again. Hi. My camera died. And now it is like 2 hours later and dark outside. But I am committed to finishing this video. So let's go. So I believe we left off talking about how Gino Borelli is like the invincible man, and he just continues to cheat death time after time after time again. I think the last thing I was talking about was when Frances Conroy's Angel of Death character came to him and basically tried to give him like the kiss of death, but he was just like, no, you know, clearly he's not ready to die. But then even after that, him and Patrick and the other character Henry, they're still trying to find the person that kidnapped him. They're still trying to find Mr. Whiteley character. And so they end up finding him. They end up figuring out where he lives. And they go to his house and end up all getting locked up in his little serial killer dungeon torture chamber whatever situation. And once again, he's able to cheat death again and get out of that situation too. And Patrick actually ends up killing Mr. Whiteley during that encounter, and that's how they get away. And so then the Whiteley character is dead. There's like a... That is annoying me. Sorry. Okay. So they end up getting out of that situation too. So just... And even after that, like, they all end up going out to Fire Island. You know, they're thinking, okay, the serial killer's gone, like, yay, like, the whole community is going out to Fire Island so they can celebrate the fact that, like, this person that has been hunting us down, killing us, etc., is gone. So they're all going out to celebrate, and they end up getting attacked by Big Daddy in the little beach house they're staying in. And, you know, they have a little tussle with him or whatever, and then, you know, they managed to get away from that too. So I'm just saying all that to say, Gino Borelli, if you invincible, just say that, because how many times you gonna cheat death? So basically, I think I've pretty much gone over the majority of the major characters and their storylines. The only person that I really haven't talked too much about is Fran. Now, Fran's storyline is really interesting. I'll talk about it a little bit more when I get into my critiques of the season. Somebody's car was just so loud. I wonder if it picked up on the video. But anyway, Fran is a lesbian woman. She is one of 3 lesbian women who we actually meet them when they come into the Native, which is the newspaper of of Gino's, and they're basically complaining that the Native doesn't really address like issues that involve lesbians. And it's like, we're part of the gay community too. Like, why do y'all only talk about male stuff? You know, why are we not a part? Y'all don't act like we're a part of this community with y'all. And so ultimately, a few episodes into the season, they end up getting a job. Gino is just so overwhelmed with everything that's going on with him. You know, he out here, you know, having relationship issues, cheating death every 3 to 5 days. It's a lot going on. So he actually does end up letting them come and work at the Native. But kind of the main person of that little lesbian trio, calling it a lesbian trio, it feels a little homophobic. I don't know. Please don't come for me. That's just the only thing I could think of. But Fran is like the head of this little lesbian trio, right? And basically, during one episode, she ends up meeting with Dr. Hannah. And she basically calls her up and is like, hey, I know you've been looking into this, you know, virus that's going on or whatever. I know what's going on. Come meet me in Central Park so I can tell you what's going on. For some reason, Dr. Hannah agrees to go meet a strange voice, unknown voice on the other side of the phone in the middle of the night in Central Park, because why? Don't know. While she's out there, she ends up seeing Big Daddy out there looking like he's about to come for her, but then as soon as she runs, she ends up running into Fran. And it's just like, girl, why were you out here in the middle of the night anyway? But anyway, Fran ends up telling her, like, I know what's going on, this virus that's ravaging the community. It's actually a plot by the government. They're targeting the gay community. And so when we get into like the next episodes, we kind of hear Fran talking about how she was working at a research lab that was like a government run lab situation, and basically they were doing all this testing on how to do like some chemical warfare type stuff, and they were inventing all of these different, you know, viruses that can harm people in different ways and doing all this testing. And she believes that the government has basically continued this testing essentially, but on this unsuspecting gay community in New York City. And so that's what she believes. Now, I'll talk about this a little bit more when I get to the critique section of this, but they don't really explore that anymore. In the season, like, everybody's sick, everybody has this disease, everybody's scratching, they have like these, you know, like patches of like itchy patches on their skin, and but they don't really, they just kind of let that be like an afterthought of the series, which is so wild to me. But like I said, I'm gonna talk about that a little bit more during my critique section. But basically, that's, you know, Fran, she ends up meeting with Dr. Hannah, talking to her about that. Dr. Hannah is listening to her, but there is a level of like, you know, well, I mean, do you have proof? Like, I mean, what do you want me to do about it, right? And so, then later on in the episode, Fran is walking, not in the episode, later on in the season, she's walking down the street, and she ends up being like drawn to this fortune telling shop. And she goes in there and she ends up getting a job in there. The lady who has been singing at the bathhouse every night, she actually runs the little fortune telling shop too. And she's basically telling Fran, she's just like, look, you know, go home, learn a little, do a little bit of research on how to do the tarot card thing, come back as long as you can. It's really just about telling the customer what they want to hear and just making it seem real, you know, and then you can have this job. And so that's what Fran does. And so she's, her first night at the little fortune teller shop, she ends up, Hannah ends up coming in with Adam. Now, we end up finding out that Hannah is actually pregnant, and Adam is the father. They have, you know, come together and decided to create a child together. And so they end up coming into the shop. Adam wants to ask about his friend who's been missing since the first or second episode. And, you know, they're basically doing the tarot card thing, and the death card keeps coming up. And this isn't something that Fran is doing. Like, it's like the cards are, they kind of like have a mind of their own. Like, clearly she is not a psychic. She's not magical. She's not anything. But every time she pulls a card, it's like the death card. And she even says at one point, she's like, now wait a minute, it's only like 1 or 2 death cards in the deck. Why is it 5 death cards here? So clearly the cards are trying to tell them something, right? And so then Gino ends up coming in as well. And this is when Gino has his scene where Shakath, I'm probably saying that wrong, Frances Conroy's Angel of Death character from Asylum, where she comes in and she ends up, you know, having this whole back and forth with Gino while he's in there getting his tarot cards read. And so when we get to the later episodes, the one before this week, the last one before this week, where everyone was at Fire Island, we see that Fran ends up getting called out to, Sam is having a party, and he ends up getting her to come out and do like tarot card readings for all of the men that are there. And we see like this whole little montage where she's doing tarot card readings for all these men at this party, and it's just death card, death card, death card every time. So I'm like, yikes, what's going on, you know? So, and that was like in the last episode before, you know, before this week. So hopefully, you know, in the finale episodes, we'll understand why everybody at the party got the death card, because I don't know. But those are pretty much all of the main characters. I don't think I'm leaving anybody out. The only person that I haven't really talked too in depth about is Henry, who is, again, played by Dennis O'Hare. But the character is just a really minor character. He ends up being someone that, you know, when Gino got kidnapped, that's who Gino was talking to, and Gino ends up going back to him because he's like, are you the one that drugged my drink? And basically, when we end up learning more about Henry's character, we find out that he is actually someone that's like hired out by the mob or something. We find out that when Sam and Patrick had their little situation where they accidentally killed that young man, that it was Henry's character who was like kind of the fixer that Sam called to come and clean it up. And then they actually ended up calling serial killer Mr. Whiteley to come chop the body up so they could bury it. And so he kind of has this like involvement in that situation. And then in the last episode that we had last week, there was this weird scene between him and Gino where he's just like confessing his love to Gino all of a sudden. I don't really know how we got there. Like, where did that come from? Like, I understand him like being into Gino, but it was very intense. And he's like, I love you so much, Gino. And he's just like on his knees in the sand, you know, professing his love to him. And I'm like, okay, this is a lot. But also when Gino and Patrick and him were locked up in Whiteley's little serial killer lair or whatever, and they were like chained to the bed and, you know, about to die, I'm like, okay, they survived that together. So maybe that's the reason that he like has these extreme emotions for him. I don't know, but at any rate, Henry is like obsessively in love with Gino Borelli, you know, and he confesses it on the beach. Gino turns him down. Obviously, Gino is in love with Patrick. Even through everything that has happened, you know, he still loves him. He's not trying to leave Patrick. And, you know, at the very end, you know, I mentioned before that Sam's old creepy predator ass had drugged Theo. And in order to get back at him, because, you know, everybody's on Fire Island celebrating that, yay, Whiteley the serial killer's dead. And basically Theo shows up with Adam because that's his boo now, you know, they together. And, you know, Sam tries to act like, no, it's cool, we could be cordial, we could be friends, like it doesn't have to be bad blood. Gives him a drink, turns out the drink is drugged. And so what ends up happening is Sam ends up having a conversation with Henry after Henry gets rejected by Gino. And he's like, oh, you know, we're out here on Fire Island, there's people that'll do anything for you for the right amount of money, da-da-da. Basically trying to tell him like, you know, you could just, you know, if you want to have some fun while you're out here, you could just solicit somebody. And he's like, don't worry, I got you. Just meet me at such and such spot at such and such time. And basically what ends up happening is Sam has drugged Theo, tied him up in the middle of the freaking woods somewhere. Theo is like half conscious, half unconscious. And Sam brings Henry out there and is like, yeah, he wanted me to tie him up like this and he's ready for you. And he makes it seem like it's like some sort of like role play bondage thing that Theo wants, when really Theo is drugged up and unconscious. So luckily, Henry ends up getting creeped out from doing anything to Theo. He's about to, but Big Daddy ends up showing up, and then Henry just runs off. And so it was really interesting at that scene when Big Daddy showed up, because I don't know, it didn't seem like Big Daddy was showing up to harm Theo. And there's all these other like little spirits that showed up too. And it was really interesting because back at Whiteley the serial killer's, you know, little secret serial killer hideaway, when he was about to kill Patrick and Gino and Henry, before Patrick shot him, Patrick saw all these little like men, dead spirits or something. And I'm assuming, okay, this is all the men that Whiteley has cut up and killed or whatever, right? But I was like, but why would Patrick be seeing them? That was kind of weird. And it didn't seem like Gino and Henry could see them, and they were right there. It seemed like only Patrick could see them. So I thought that was really weird. And then, you know, of course he shoots Whiteley, and that's that. But then when Theo is out in the woods subconscious after Henry runs away, Big Daddy is just standing there, and then all these spirits are there too. So I'm just like, who are these spirits? Like I said, I assumed they were people that Whiteley had chopped up, but I'm like, maybe these are spirits of men that Sam killed. But why is Big Daddy with them? And why doesn't it look like Big Daddy actually wants to hurt Theo? Which leads me to some of my predictions about how this is all gonna end. But that's pretty much everything in terms of like the characters and the major storylines that are going on. I don't really think I left anything out. I mean, there's obviously a lot happened so far in the season. Like, I didn't want to do like a rundown of every single episode because, I mean, it would literally take me hours. So that's the main key stuff of what happened in this season, the characters, what they got going on. I do want to mention that Barbara, Patrick's ex-wife, does end up getting killed by Big Daddy while Patrick is there. So Patrick goes to Barbara's house to let her dog out while she's in the hospital because she like fainted or whatever. And Patrick goes to her house to let her dog out, and the dog is standing at the closet just barking at the closet. Patrick opens the closet, Big Daddy's in there. Big Daddy comes out, he starts roughing Patrick up. Looks like he's about to try to like sexually assault him, I think, because he like had him bent over the table, and Patrick was like, no, and just starts fighting him or whatever. And so then after all that said and done, you know, I guess Big Daddy disappears or whatever, and Patrick is just like, you know, well, I'm going to stay here with you, to his ex-wife Barbara. He's like, I'm going to stay here with you because, you know, it's not safe. So Barbara is in the shower, and she's like looking, you know, from the shower, looking at Patrick, lusting after him, you know, because of course she still wants him. And Patrick is like standing in the mirror, shaving his face. Now, I couldn't tell if Patrick was really standing in the mirror shaving his face, or if that was like just a flashback that she was having from when they were married. I couldn't really tell. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. I really think it was like a flashback that she was remembering from when she was married, and she was just fantasizing about it, and she starts to, you know, get a little familiar with herself in the shower, and then all of a sudden, boom, Big Daddy's in there, chokes her out, and she dies. And so she dies, but then there have been like a couple occasions since she has died that her ghost has come to Patrick. And so it kind of has me like, why would her ghost be coming to Patrick? You know what I mean? And that just further like solidifies my position that it's something that ain't right about Patrick. I don't trust him. Something about him is not right. And the fact that his ex-wife's ghost keeps coming to him, I'm like, something is up with him. I don't trust him. It's something more to Patrick. But I did want to go ahead and mention that too. But that's pretty much it in terms of the characters and the main plot points of the story. So now let's go ahead and get into my critiques of the season thus far. So I'm just going to say that my main critiques are the fact that I feel like the way that they use some of the characters that we know and love from the AHS universe, it just kind of feels like you just put them in here just so they would be in here because they're familiar faces. But you didn't really like utilize them for real. Like, Dennis O'Hare is literally AHS royalty, okay? His character in freaking Hotel is one of the most iconic AHS characters, like, period. And it's just like, even his character from Murder House, the burnt face dude, you know, like, this is an iconic character in this entire like universe, and it's just like the character he plays this season is just so, he has nothing going on. It's just, he's just a flat, boring character. The same with Leslie Grossman, the same with Billy Lord. How do you waste Billy Lord? How do you make Billy Lord a boring character like this? Like, she is one of the most like quirky wild card characters, you know, like, how do you make her so incredibly boring? Like, Dr. Hannah is the most flat, boring character. I've seen in an AHS season. And again, the same with Barbara. How do you make Leslie Grossman like completely flat and boring? And it's just almost like, they said, okay, we want to have some of the OG characters in here, you know, but we don't really have nothing for them to do for real. We don't really want to make them the main characters. I honestly would have rather they just not have them in here. Like, just let some new person that we don't know play these boring flat side characters. Don't use like people that we know them to be these like dynamic actors and actresses and put them in these boring flat character roles like this. Like, that just, I don't know. I'm just like, what a waste of Leslie Grossman and Billy Lord and Dennis O'Hare. Like, what an absolute waste of those characters. Yeah, so that's one of my main critiques in this season. I will say that the new people, I like all the other characters, I've enjoyed them. So it's just like, if we had a season where it was just like more so newer people, like, that's fine as long as they're good. Gino Borelli, great character. Adam's character, great character. Theo's character, he was in the last season as well, but love him, great character. Sam is an OG, love him. So it's like, you know, you could have just, you didn't have to stick these like well-known AHS characters in here in these dry flat roles like this. Like, I don't know, that just bothered me. The other main critique that I have, and probably the biggest critique that I have of this season, is, why was Whiteley's storyline necessary? Like, why? Somebody explain. Unless they're gonna come back around to serial killer Whiteley's storyline in these last 2 episodes and bring it all together, help me understand why we needed the Whiteley the serial killer storyline. And I understand there were a lot of things that Whiteley did that essentially drove the plot forward, right? If he didn't kidnap Gino, then Gino wouldn't have done this, and this, right? If he didn't, you know, wasn't killing people and taking their body parts away, then this would, I get that. But could that not have, they could have progressed the story with Big Daddy doing those things. You get what I'm saying? Like, and again, we still have 2 episodes, so they could make it all make sense in the last 2 episodes. I really hope they do, because at this point, it's like, okay, now Whiteley is dead. What was the purpose? What was the purpose? Like, his whole storyline feels like, well, that was so anticlimactic and stupid now, because it had no implications of anything. Like, he's kidnapping people, he's cutting up body parts, he's creating a Frankenstein creature, and then you killed him now, and that's that. It's like, what was the point? Like, I'm really, again, they could bring it all together in the last 2 episodes, but I'm almost just like, could the Big Daddy killer had just been the main killer? Now, I do have another theory about Big Daddy that I'll explain later when I get to my theories and my predictions that could explain why they needed Whiteley. But I don't know. It just feels like the way they progressed that Whiteley storyline was just kind of, like, I guess really the way they killed him was so anticlimactic. I'm thinking that Mr. Whiteley was going to have like some serious, he was going to do something that was going to have some serious implications to the main characters and the main storyline. But it's like nothing he did really had that much, you know, aside from giving Gino the opportunity to cheat death 6 times. Like, it was so anticlimactic. It was just like, okay, he's killing people. Cool. We're trying to chase the bad guy and figure out who he is and where he lives. Okay, cool. We figure out who he is. We find him. Okay, cool. He locks us up. He tries to kill Gino like 12 times. Gino gets away every time. Okay, cool. Boom. We shot him. Now we're free. And it's just like, that's it? That's the Whiteley storyline? That's the culmination of it? I don't know. It just feels like, well, that was pointless, you know? So I don't know. The other major plot point that I'm so confused about, which again, they might explain this and bring it all back around in the last 2 episodes. the virus situation. Like I said earlier, we had Fran go to Dr. Hannah, tell her that she thinks the virus is something that has to do with the government. We never come back around to that. We never get deeper into that, right? It's just a theory that Fran has. There's no proof. She's just, you know, she tells Hannah about it, and then they just kind of leave that alone, right? Everybody has the virus. Every single character on the show has the virus. But it's just like, why? Could this entire season have happened and still been pretty much the same story without everybody having a virus? Like, the virus thing, we start off in like the first or second episode with this whole big shebang. We're going out to Fire Island, we're killing all the deer, as if the virus is going to be such an important thing in the series. And it's like, okay, we shooting all the deer, we're, oh my god, virus, scary virus, everybody has it, we seeing people scratching and stuff, but there's no, it's like, okay, and like, what? It just feels like the fact that everybody has this virus, it just feels like such an unnecessary detail. Unless they're gonna bring it all back around in the last 2 episodes. Again, they could bring it all back around in the last 2 episodes and fully explain, you know, but it's just like, also, why would you wait till the last 2 episodes to bring that together though, you know? So I don't know, y'all let me know what y'all think, but I just feel like the season it would have been the exact same story without the virus. If the entire virus storyline was just gone, we still would have had the same story. The only thing that would have changed is that Fran and Hannah wouldn't have had the conversation about, you know, Fran thinking that the government was involved. Nothing else of the storyline would have changed. People wouldn't be scratching all the time. Everything else would still be the same. So it's just like, it feels like a very like random detail that's unnecessary. And again, you know, they could bring it around in the last 2 episodes. We'll see. The last critique I have, sorry, can't forget about this one. I hate the fact that they did double episodes every week. I hate it so much. We just started the season and it's done. I hate that. Like, we literally just started and the season's already over. We haven't even had time to like sit with the characters and get to know the characters and fall in love with them or fall in hate with them. We haven't had time to do anything because it's already over. It just started and it's already over. I hate it so much. I don't know whose idea it was to drop 2 episodes every week, but I don't like it. It went by too fast. It felt like it was just rushing through, like it was rushed. And it's like, if we were getting 1 episode a week, we would have had time to sit with individual things that were happening for an entire week before the next thing happened. You know what I'm saying? The 2 episode thing, it just made it feel rushed. It made it feel like too congested. I don't know. I can't think of a better word than that. Hopefully I'm making sense, but it made it feel like it was just too much every week, right? And before you could even like digest everything that happened from 2 whole episodes, then it's time for 2 more, and now the season's over. I hate it. I hope they never do this again. There's a lot of conversation about this being the last season of American Horror Story because I guess people are saying that Ryan Murphy wants to go more so into doing stuff like you know, the other series that he does, like American Crime Story and the Dahmer series. He wants to move more so into doing stuff like that and not do AHS anymore. I think that is a horrible idea. I think that AHS has a very strong fan following still. And I think that if Ryan Murphy just gets back to the horror of it, then the OG fans will come back. I think that there's a lot of people, myself included, you know, I really wanted there to be more supernatural elements this season. And I know every season hasn't had supernatural elements, but when you look back to the OG seasons of AHS, there was a lot of supernatural stuff going on, and that's led to a lot of the horror. And that's what people came for originally. And, you know, I don't have a problem with the show having other things. Like Cult is a season that I really did enjoy, and it didn't have any supernatural elements, but it was still a really solid season. So, I mean, I think that it's definitely possible to do a season here and there that doesn't necessarily have supernatural elements. But I think that, like, let's get the horror again. I think people really want that. I think stopping the series is a bad idea because there's so many people that still love it. And if you stop it now, you're gonna stop it after having a few seasons that people didn't really love. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're gonna end it, like, let's get a really good horror-filled supernatural season and end it on a high note. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't know. But if we do get another season of AHS, which I really hope that we do, let's not do 2 episodes a week no more. I hated it, and it's already over, and that's so crazy to me. So let's get into my predictions and my theories. So I'm gonna just go ahead and tell y'all my number 1 theory that I have been feeling like this since episode number 2, okay? I don't trust Patrick. I think that Patrick and Sam, you know, we know they accidentally killed the dude out at Fire Island, you know, and all of that. I think there's even more to it. I think that Sam and Patrick are in cahoots even deeper than what we know. And I think that is why Big Daddy keep trying to kill Patrick. Because this is my other theory. I don't think Big Daddy is a killer. I don't. I think Big Daddy is coming after very specific people, and they're all attached to Patrick. Did you notice that? So, okay, every time Big Daddy encounters Patrick, he tries to murk him. But we've seen Big Daddy encounter other people in other parts of the season, and he didn't do nothing to them. Remember when Sam was coming home that time, and Big Daddy was just like standing outside his front door, and it was almost like Big Daddy was like a ghost or an apparition or something, because it was like Sam couldn't even like perceive him there. But he didn't do anything to him. And then there was another time where Big Daddy was at the bathhouse. No. There was another time when the young man that Sam had got to come and take photos with Theo, he showed up at the house. Big Daddy was there, and he was like, "Oh, excuse me, I'm here to take photos." And Big Daddy just stood to the side and let him through. So Big Daddy is not trying to kill everybody. And honestly, we haven't seen him kill anybody except for Barbara. Barbara is the only person we actually seen him kill. And I even kind of am like, did Big Daddy really kill Barbara, or did Patrick kill Barbara? I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think. But as far as who we've seen him kill, allegedly, the only person we've actually seen him kill is Barbara. We haven't seen him kill anybody else. We've just seen him be nearby before something bad happens to people. And even in that very first original scene, we seen Big Daddy's like figure, but then we know that Mr. Whiteley is the one that cut that pilot's head off. So I'm like, have Big Daddy actually killed anybody, or is he not a killer at all? Now here's my other theory. I'm like, is Big Daddy collecting people and bringing them to Sam, and then Sam is doing something to them? That to me makes a lot more sense. It would make sense because it would make sense from the standpoint of the fact that Big Daddy was standing outside Sam's apartment and Sam acted like he didn't even see him. Or if he's in cahoots with him, then he was, you know, then it wasn't a big deal for him to be standing there, right? And then also when the young model comes to get photographed by Theo and Big Daddy is there and he's like, "Oh, I'm here to get photographs," and then Big Daddy just lets him through. If the whole thing is bringing people to Sam, then all Big Daddy has to do is let him come through and go to Sam. So I'm like, is Big Daddy just somebody that is literally collecting people and bringing them to Sam, and then Sam is doing something to them? I think that could be the case, but then the only thing about that is, okay, but then, well, why is Big Daddy just trying so hard to kill Patrick and hurt people connected to him? Because think about it. Barbara connected to Patrick. Gino connected to Patrick. The only people we've actually seen Big Daddy like try to physically harm is Patrick, Gino, and Barbara. I don't know, man. I think there's something going on when it comes to Patrick. I think there is more to the story. I think Patrick is a worse person than we even realize. I think there's something going on with Patrick, and I think it has to do with Sam. I think the little story they told about accidentally killing that guy, I think either that wasn't the whole story and there's more to it, or that was a true story, but it wasn't the end of their connection to each other. So I don't know. Y'all tell me what y'all think. I honestly think that we're going to find out that Big Daddy is not a killer and that he is actually someone that is just like being sent out by Sam or something to bring people to him. Because even at the end of that very last episode that we saw last week, like I said, when he came up to Theo, when Henry was about to, go at him, and, after he scares Henry away, it didn't look like Big Daddy was about to, like, do anything to Theo. It didn't look like he was there to cause him any harm. So it's just, I don't know. But then in the same breath, when he, also in that episode, he shows up at the beach house of the lesbian trio, Fran and her two homegirls, and he doesn't do anything to them either. But then in the same breath, in that same episode, he goes to the beach house of Patrick and Gino, where Adam is there, and attacks everybody. So again, I'm like, it's something specific to Patrick and people specifically connected to Patrick. Because it don't seem like Big Daddy is really coming after nobody else. Like, he be around, but he don't be attacking them. You know what I'm saying? Y'all let me know if I'm just crazy or if I'm onto something here. I guess we'll find out this week, but I think I'm onto something. Also, in regards to Patrick being a bad guy, does anybody else think that Patrick set Gino up to get kidnapped that night? Because listen, we had that whole conversation where Patrick was pretending like he didn't know what the handkerchief thing was. Then he tells Gino, maybe you should go to this, to the Brownstone bar and check this out. So you specifically sent him to the Brownstone bar where people are getting kidnapped and drugged and da-da-da. We know now that Patrick has a connection with Henry, and somehow Gino sitting down having a drink with Henry is when he gets drugged. It's giving very much that Patrick set Gino up to die and Gino just keeps surviving. But why would Patrick set Gino up to get kidnapped and drugged? I don't know. Tell me what y'all think. I really do think that Patrick is a bad guy, and I really do think that Patrick possibly has a lot more to do with everything than we think, and I think that's why Big Daddy keeps specifically coming after him and people close to him, and I definitely think that it's possible that he set Gino up that night to get kidnapped, because it's like, it's too convenient. You sent him directly to this bar, and you sent him there alone with no backup or anything. And you have this prior connection to Henry, who he was conveniently having a drink with before he gets drugged. Something's up. So that's my other prediction. I think that he definitely set. I think that Patrick definitely, potentially, probably set Gino up to get kidnapped that night at the Brownstone bar, and I think maybe he just didn't expect Gino to survive it. I also think that there's definitely something deeper to this connection between Patrick and Sam. I think it probably goes a lot deeper than that one story, and that one story might not have even been true. There might have been more to it. I also think that's why Patrick keeps seeing the ghost of Barbara, because I think it's something in his subconscious, some sort of guilt in his subconscious that is causing him to keep seeing her. And it's like, what do you feel guilty about? What do you feel guilty about? What else have you done that you haven't told us? So I don't trust him. I think Patrick is going to end up being the bad guy. I think that Big Daddy is going to more than likely end up, I really feel like he is somebody that I really think Sam is like sending him to collect people and bring them back to him or something. I don't know. I think it's something going on where Sam knows who Big Daddy is and is controlling him or something. But then the question is, who is Big Daddy? Is he the spirit of someone that Sam killed? Is he an actual real person under that mask? I don't know. I don't know, but he just seems to have an irrational hatred and vendetta towards Patrick specifically. Every time he sees Patrick, it's on sight, attack. Every time he sees Patrick or somebody connected to him, it's on sight, attack. But then he's seeing other people and he's just walking off and leaving them alone. So I don't know, y'all. But hopefully we're gonna find all of this information out this week in the finale episode. I'm sorry that I had to finish up this video in this horrible lighting, but my camera overheated. I had to wait 2 hours to start recording again. The sun went down. It's a whole thing. I'm shooting with a new camera. Hopefully the picture quality shows that and it looks really good, but I'm gonna have to just get used to how it works and stuff. But that's all I got for this, overview of AHS season 11 NYC so far, and my predictions for the season finale episodes that we're gonna get this week. I will be back here after the season finale episodes to discuss them. So if y'all are interested in seeing that, make sure that you subscribe to the tribe so that you're notified once I post that. Also, if you enjoy this video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up. I honestly cannot wait to watch these finale episodes so I can come back and talk about them. I just really want to see how they wrap all of this up. But yeah, that's all I got. Thank y'all so much for watching. Bye.